G.K. Chesterton, great British writer from 100 years ago, wrote a letter to the London Times because somebody had written an article on what's wrong with the world. And the way that you signed letters to the editor of the Times in those days was you said, "I am yours sincerely, N.T. Wright," or whatever. And Chesterton wrote, "Sir, what is wrong with the world? I am yours sincerely, G.K. Chesterton." Which is a cheap and cheerful way of saying something profoundly Christian, which is that when you ask the question, what's wrong with the world, you do not sit on a position of moral neutrality yourself and say, if there's wrong in the world, it's all out there, but I am the one who can sit above it and judge it. We are all in this mess together, and if we are talking about what's wrong in the rest of the world, we have to be prepared to have the critique bounce back at us. That will be move number one, perhaps. And even if we accept the obvious problem spots in the world, like sort of Syria or wherever at the moment, nevertheless, there is a sense of a malaise which, despite all our education and our intelligence and our smart machines and all the rest of it, we don't actually seem to have made any advances at all in terms of some pretty basic human qualities. However, the idea of false expectations raises the question, why should we think there's something wrong with the world? I mean, some philosophers have said that actually we live in the best of all possible worlds, and there couldn't be anything better than what we are in at the moment. And if we rebel against that, they would say, you're just living in a fantasy land. You want to be cosseted. You want to be in Disneyland all the time, where everyone is sort of nice to you and gives you hamburgers every time you want them and whatever. And you just don't like the world because it's not like that. And I want to say, from a Christian point of view, there is this thing called the problem of evil, which actually goes much wider than the things you mentioned, to include, classically, things like earthquakes and tornadoes. I'm shocked to see tornado safe zones there. We don't. Okay, let me know if you see one coming, because we British don't know about those things usually. But actually, if you're an atheist, then you have a problem of good. Why should you think? Why should there be in a random world things like love and beauty and things that make the heart sing? Why should are they just a cruel joke? Are they just evolution's trick, making us think that there is meaning to life when in fact there isn't? So we can probe that a bit further. So I think behind all the symptoms which you mention, then for the Christian there would be an analysis which says that humans are out of joint with the way they're meant to be, and that some of that out-of-jointness contributes to a larger out-of-jointness in the world as a whole. Now, you can't say that because humans are fallen, whatever that means, that that's why earthquakes happen. It seems to me that earthquakes, etc., are part of the way that God has made the world, because the world is not made like an 18th century machine designed to work like clockwork with God as the clockwork maker. That's actually a very modern idea of how God made the world. But nevertheless, there is a sense which comes through in some key biblical passages that creation itself is waiting for a new day, a new world to be born, and that we see signs of that in the present, not least in human love, but then specifically in the story of Israel and the story of Jesus, and particularly his death. We see things which say there is a God who is going to make a new world, and we get to be part of that, and that merely increases the sense of slippage, of tension at the moment. Now, of course, that's a faith position, but it seems to me it's the sort of faith position which then, when you take it and look around yourself, you say, actually, that position makes sense of what I'm looking at, of what I can see. And as we were saying before about knowledge, it's not, not as you were saying before, because you confess to an empiricist position where you start from the bottom and work up and make sense of it, yeah? Is that sort of?
Sort of.
Sort of, yeah, okay. I want to say it's neither induction nor deduction, it's more about abduction. That is to say, like the Sherlock Holmes things. Yeah, here's all the evidence, but now we need imagination, we need a story, we need something which will tell us how it all makes sense. And then when we have an intuition, a hypothesis about how it all makes sense, we then notice other bits of evidence which we hadn't noticed before, and so the epistemological circuit goes. And so I want to say, when I look out at the world as a Christian, I see all sorts of things which are wrong, which I see as symptomatic of a larger out-of-jointness, which I believe that the God who made the world is in the business of putting right.